And welcome back. This here is adding a user inside of SharePoint on TaxProAlliance.com to make sure that TaxPro Docs doesn't allow sub-offices to see other users' TaxPro Docs. So in the first video we went over adding a group and why it was important to add a group and what that meant as a global admin as well as at the sub-office level. So here we're going to add users. Now, in our sub-office, what we're going to do in Webinar Office A, I'm going to add a user which will give a login for TaxPro Docs. So I would go to this sub-office here, Webinar Office A, add user. These are your permissions. So remember that as permissions. So when you're setting this user up, just remember what permissions that you're actually giving them. I'm going to make this an employee. First name is going to be Test1. Last name is Webinar1. And username is going to be Webinar1. And password is going to be Pass1 for this guy. So under Webinar Office A, our password is Pass1 and username is Webinar1. And we're going to go ahead and save changes. Okay, not going to be Pass1. Let's see. All right. Maybe that password is already in the system at some point. So if you get that error, what that means is that the password can't be duplicated. And with good reason that you wouldn't want that to happen. All right. So underneath Webinar Office A, we have login Webinar1 with the password of 201. And it is active. Okay. You see that? All right. That's our user underneath Webinar Office A. Also, what I'm going to do is show you here under Webinar Office B, we're going to go ahead and add a user. I'm going to make him my admin. And under sub B, we're going to make this Webinar 2, pass 202. So his username is Webinar 2. Pass 202 is his password. All right. So now what we have here is a user created at Office A. Then we have a user created here at Office B, which is an admin. Actually, while we're doing that, let me go ahead and do this too. So under here, we're going to add another user just to show you the differences in when they log in and what that's going to mean for them. So this will be test2. This is a baby, so this is going to be webinar 3. And pass 203. Alright, now what that does as an employee, it changes his permissions. Just to get you a feel of what the permissions and setting up these groups and users will do for you when you go into TaxPro Docs and why that's important. So now that we've got that set up, what we want to do is come here. I want to run out to TaxPro Docs. Alright, so the first login we're going to do is webinar 1 with pass 201. Alright, now that is the login that we created underneath Office A, remember? So if you go here and look at load existing client, he has nothing because of the way that we set him up, remember? He's got his permissions permit him to see nothing here. Alright, so that's Office A on webinar 1. So now what we're going to do is we're going to log into the sub under Office A, which is webinar 2. And you'll see here that because he is logged in as sub B, and it's a brand new login, he ain't created anything, he's not going to see anything here, but by him being an admin, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So we're going to log in here to the webinar 3 who was a sub under B. Remember there was another user under B, so we had an admin and then we had a regular user under B. This is what makes the groups and the users very, very important when setting up TaxPro Docs in order to keep all of this separate. We're going to log into webinar 3. 203. We're going to go ahead and create a user right quick, and then we're going to log back in under the admin user. And I'm going to show you what goes on when you're an admin out here as far as your subs. So that's why it's very important to make sure that when you're dealing with your sub offices as far as groups and users, that you're creating these at the proper level so that it doesn't have any overlap. And we'll do test. Of course, we don't need a phone number or anything, but view client profile. Here to home. You'll see here that we created a client, which was Test Webby, which you see here. So what I'm going to do is go to home. We're going to log out. Then I'm going to log into webinar 2. Which was our login that was underneath our sub Office B, which was the admin of that account under that sub office. So let me show you what this does when we log in here. I actually want to go down here to password to input the password. That might be the smartest thing, you know. But any rate, let's log in here. And remember, this is our sub office admin, so he logs in at sub office admin, and they're able to see not only what they've created here, but also what their preparer has created. That's how this function works. That's TaxPro Docs. That's how we get everything set up in order to make sure that we have what we need, and we go from there.